Week 5 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to drop this week. The first guy, Jock Peterson of the San Francisco Giants. Peterson, he got off to a monster start the first few weeks of the season here. Then he was banged up a little bit with an injury, but didn't go on the injury list, and then came back, and the struggles have continued now for Peterson on the season. 6 home runs, 11 RBIs, a stolen base, 11 runs scored, a 261 average, and a 293 on base. So we know Peterson throughout his career, he's not a high batting average guy, but a guy that definitely has pop and 25 to 30 home run potential. But the last few weeks here for him in 22 at-bats, he's in a 1-for-22 slump. No homers and RBI, 45 average, and an 083 on base. So right here, he got off to the hot start like I mentioned, but now he's reforming back to old ways with the low batting average and not an on great base percentage. So the last few games since he's returned, May 3rd at the Dodgers 0-for-1, May 4th at the Dodgers 0-for-4, May 5th versus the Cardinals 0-for-5, May 6th versus St. Louis 0-for-4, May 8th 0-for-4, and he got benched yesterday versus the Rockies, but had an RBI in a pinch hitting appearance. So right now he's struggling. He's not going to verse lefties really. That's always been the forte with Peterson. Hitting righties obviously better than lefties. And a guy who's going to be hot and cold during the season. So right now, while he's on a cold streak in shallow leagues, he's a guy with drop right now. And fantasy owners have dropped him in 10% of fantasy leagues. No doubt about it, he has big power as Peterson. But right now, he's not worth the wait, especially struggling over the last few weeks. The next guy's Frank Schwindel of the Chicago Cubs. So right here, Schwindel, he got sent down a couple days ago. Then he got recalled for yesterday's ball game. And Schwindel, he was great last season in limited time with the Cubs. 14 homers, 43 RBIs, a 326 average, a 371 on base in only 240 at-bats. But so far this season, he's been a train wreck. 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 6 runs scored, 202 average, and a 242 on base. So he got sent down on Sunday. Then someone went on the COVID list, and he's back now. But he's a guy that strikes out way too much, is Schwindel. And he's a guy just not playing good baseball at all. Over the last few games for him, May 1st at Milwaukee 0-for-4, May 3rd versus the White Sox 1-for-4, May 4th versus the White Sox 0-for-3 with a run, May 7th in a doubleheader versus the Dodgers 2-for-8, and then last night at San Diego 0-for-3 with 3 strikeouts. So right now, maybe the league caught up to him. He really can't hit that breaking ball. He was a dead red fastball hitter last season. And it looks like he's going to be sent back down to the minors once the Cubs get back to health and once David Robertson is ready. Schwindel will go down after replacing him on the roster, going on the COVID list. So right now, no reason to keep him. He's only going to be up a few more days to a week here, I would imagine, unless he really gets hot. But that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case here for Schwindel. So drop him this week. The next guy, Jesus Sanchez of the Miami Marlins. So Sanchez, a few weeks ago, I recommended him as a pickup. But right now, the struggles have kicked in here for Sanchez over the last few weeks. On the season, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs, 11 runs scored, 235 average, and a 292 on base. So a low on base at only 292. Batting average is low, and he really hasn't shown power in a while here. The last couple weeks for him, no homers, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored, 125 average, and a 205 on base. So this Marlin team, they got off to a good start the first 2-3 weeks of the season, but the last week or two now, they've really fizzled out, and Sanchez is a big part of the fizzling out as well, where he's not hitting the baseball, he's not getting on base, and he's a guy, obviously, who's batting cleanup, but now pushed down to the 7th spot here for this Marlin team. So the last few games here for Sanchez, May 3rd versus Arizona 0-for-3, May 4th he sat out, May 5th at San Diego 0-for-4, with 3 strikeouts, May 6th at San Diego 1-for-4, May 8th at San Diego 0-for-4, and May 9th at Arizona 1-for-4 with a run in that one. So he's not hitting the baseball. Only 3 hits for him in the last 8 games for Sanchez, and that's not going to get the job done. Fantasy owners have dropped him in 11% of fantasy leagues, and I know he's a guy with huge upside, but we really haven't seen it all that much, and I would drop him this week. The next guy, Eduardo Escobar of the New York Mets. So Escobar signed a pretty decent deal in the offseason with the Mets. And we know he's a guy that could hit 25, 30 home runs. But so far this season, he just hasn't done anything really. 1 home run, 7 RBIs, 12 runs scored, 223 average, and a 333 on base. So the only thing I'll give him here is he's getting on base at a decent clip still, with his on base 110 points higher than his batting average, but he's a guy we've known throughout his career where he could carry it for a month or two, he gets his numbers, and then there's going to be months where he's in a huge slump. But right now, to only have one home run for an everyday player here who's had 103 at-bats, that's not a good sign. The low batting average is a usual here for Escobar. He'll finish the season anywhere in the 230s to the 250 range. And right now, he's not even driving in runs as well, where last season he at least had 90 RBI. So right now, he's still owned in 69% of fantasy leagues, but owners have dropped him in 5%. So the last few games here for Escobar: May 2nd versus Atlanta, 0 for 4. May 3rd in a doubleheader, he played one of the games versus Atlanta, 1 for 4. May 4th versus Atlanta, 1 for 3 with an RBI. May 5th at Philly, 0 for 4. And then May 8th in a doubleheader at Philly, 0 for 8. So right now, he's really slumping. And it's not like he's not getting an everyday opportunity. He is. But we haven't seen the power, which he's known for, at all for Escobar. And that's very alarming to me. So I would drop him right now. No doubt about it. He could get hot and get going when the weather heats up. But right now, he's not a guy I'm going to prioritize on my team. And I would drop him in the 5th and final hit I'd look to drop this week. It's a guy I've mentioned earlier in the season, Jurickson Profar of the San Diego Padres. So on the season, 5 home runs, 16 RBIs, a stolen base, 13 runs scored, 163 average, and a 297 on base. So right here, Profar, I know he's versatile at first, second, and outfield, but it's very surprising to me he's still owned in 50% of fantasy leagues. He just hasn't done anything over the last few weeks here. 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a 102 batting average, and a 228 on base. So Profar this season, I think he's swinging for the fences more than anything. So far in 98 at-bats, he's got 5 homers. And last season, in 353 at-bats, he had 4. So he already passed that clip in over 250 at-bats here for Profar. So right now, I think he's just trying to get home run happy since he's got early success in the season, but he's taking a big hit on the batting average, and he's not getting on base. I know he's versatile, but there's no reason to hold on to him, in my opinion. So the last few games here for Profar: May 4th at Cleveland in a doubleheader, 1 for 7, a run and a rib. May 5th versus Miami, 0 for 3. May 6th versus Miami, 0 for 3. May 7th versus Miami, 1 for 3. May 8th versus Miami, 1 for 4. And May 9th versus the Cubs, 0 for 4. So he just can't get anything going here. And he's a guy I just can't hold on to right now. And like I said, I'm very surprised he's owned in 50% of fantasy leagues. And in the few fantasy leagues I'm in, owners still have him as well. But he's hurting you in striking out, and he's hurting you with the low batting average. So it should be a no-brainer to drop Profar this week. So that's a few hitters I look to drop here for Week 5 of the fantasy baseball season.